And I guess I need to let you know, Peter King, that's the last you're going to hear from Ray Ratto this afternoon. I've got Larry Krueger in with me today, and it's always good to have the king of NFL media stop on by for his weekly chat here on 95.7 The Game. Peter, hello. How you doing?
Well, good to be with you guys. And by the way, did you just hear what Bob Costas said on the Yankees-Cleveland playoff game?
No.
About Aaron Judge?
No, we'd love to. Have you shared?
There will be some active bidding. He was talking about Aaron Judge. He said, there will be some active bidding, including from the San Francisco Giants, the team he grew up rooting for. I thought that was interesting with the well-connected Mr. Costas.
It is interesting. I would also say that Bob is a big Yankees fan, so he's probably just putting it out in the world that the Yankees better get their money up because the Giants might be coming.
I don't know. I know Bob very, very well, and he would not be saying something if there wasn't some kernel in there. I don't think it has anything to do with the Yankees. But, I mean, who knows? We'll see. But I've always thought the one thing that we don't know about Aaron Judge, and I live in Brooklyn, and I'm a huge baseball fan, and the one thing about Aaron Judge is he is not one time, not once, since negotiations broke down early last spring, he's not one time said, man, I love the Yankees. I hope I play the rest of my career with them.
I've noticed that. I've noticed that too.
If you're Aaron Judge, I guess my question is, do you love living in New York? You're a California kid. You grew up in, I don't know, I guess kind of a small town in California. You grew up loving the Giants. I would bet, and this is just an absolute guess/bet, even though the Giants are, one of the kings of analytics now in Major League Baseball, I would just bet that there is a good chance that inside their organization, they will make a big play for Aaron Judge. Now, I would also bet that the Yankees will outbid anybody by $5 million a year. The question is, do you want to play for the Yankees for $45 million a year, or the Giants, or somebody else? Who knows? In a more peaceful, placid environment for $40 million a year. And again, look, I have no knowledge about any of this. I just have been observing Aaron Judge all year, and he's had 100 chances to say, man, I want to be Mickey Mantle. I want to play my career with the Yankees. He hasn't said it. He hasn't even come close to saying it.
Now, you're not trying to speak this into reality as a Red Sox fan, are you?
No.
No, I know.
The Red Sox I would love to see the Red Sox sign him. I mean, and look.
Get that Wade Boggs revenge from all those years ago. It's for Johnny Damon. We finally get a guy.
But honestly, you know what? This guy is an absolute class guy. If he wants to sign with the Yankees, good for him. I don't care what he does, honestly. I mean, obviously, whatever happens. He deserves to choose exactly what he wants to do. But I just find it interesting that he's not once said, man, I want to play the rest of my career with the Yankees. But anyway, we'll see.
Peter King, our Major League Baseball insider. That's all the time we have this week. Peter, thank you so very much. Now, hey, so here's the deal. Every single week of this NFL season, it has felt like the San Francisco 49ers were off to a less than ideal start. But honestly, looking at where they're sitting right now, how they're playing, even with injuries remaining ever present an issue, it feels like the bad start has turned into a pretty gosh darn good start, all things considered.
I mean, the reason it's a great start for them is because I think early on in this season, when, early in game 2, when, they had the very strange, and not strange, but the very unfortunate incident of losing their starting quarterback. And yet there's no other team in football where you could say, well, the backup quarterback actually might win more games for him this year than the starting quarterback, because the starting quarterback is an unknown X factor. But be that as it may, whatever it is, the thing that really interests me about the 49ers right now is the depth that has been built, by a good personnel staff, by a good general manager, and obviously by Kyle Shanahan. This is a team that has had some really big issues and big injuries, and they've responded to those injuries so far anyway very well. I had a note in my column this week about, since 2019, this is the fourth year where they've had this weird 2-game Eastern time zone road trip where, remember, the first year in 2019 they stayed in Youngstown, and the last 3 years they've stayed at the Greenbrier in West Virginia, this beautiful, very, very old, but incredibly well-kept resort in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, that at one point was the emergency nuclear bunker for the United States government.
Yep.
But anyway, be that as it may. So now they swept their 2 Eastern games in 2019, swept them in 2020, and swept them in 2021, and now, they've won the first one and certainly are favored to win the second one against Atlanta this year. So if you're Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, you are begging the league office every year, give us 2 straight Eastern time zone games so we can do this. But I just think right now when I look at this team, it's almost a little bit like the way Brian Daboll is with the Giants. You just find a way. And this is a very talented team that hasn't really been, killed by injuries on the offensive side of the ball. And who knows, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, they may have to score 30 points instead of instead of their defense maybe winning all these games. They might have to be a little bit more explosive on offense. And I think this team can be, if need be.
Yeah. Falcons this week, Chiefs looming next week down in Santa Clara. Looking at this division, if we back away from the micro and try to take a little bit more of a macro view of the division, What do you see? Do you see the 49ers commandeering this division? And of the other 3 teams, who's the team that you think is most likely to challenge them in the years ahead?
Well, in the years ahead, I don't know. Because quite honestly, one of the worst things about the injury to Trey Lance is that we still have no idea if he's a player. I mean, how can you know? The guy, essentially has hardly played football. I shouldn't say that, but he hasn't played very much football since he graduated from high school. And I know that sounds weird, but just look at the record. He's played 1 year of Division I AA or whatever it's called now. And his first 2 years in the NFL, you simply do not know enough about him to have the ultra confidence in him. Let's just talk about this year just for a second, and I'll tell you a little bit of what I think. First of all, I think the Seahawks are a really, really interesting team. But, they probably have the most explosive offense in the division, but far and away they have the worst defense. Yeah, it's amazing to me that basically they're allowing now through 5 games, they're allowing 31 points a game, and through 5 games, the 49ers are allowing 12 points a game. And so I don't know how they're going to be all that competitive in the division. The Cardinals, I just don't trust the Cardinals. Imagine a team, losing 8 consecutive home games in what had been, until a couple of years ago, one of the best 5 home field advantages in football. They morphed into a really good home field advantage team. And now I think there's immense skepticism long term on both Kingsbury, and a little bit less in Kyler Murray, but a lot in Cliff Kingsbury. And then the Rams offensive line is terrible. And I don't know. I don't know how you fix that in 1 year. I just don't. Their offensive line is from hunger. So, I think the 49ers are the best team in the division and might be the best team in the division by 3 games by the end of the year. And look, anybody who's got Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, you're going to win a bunch of games. But their offensive line is very damaged, and I just don't think that they can challenge for the division title right now.
Since we're talking with Peter King about other challengers, I was in the middle of asking a question to Michael Irvin when he busted in with what he thought was the appropriate answer. I want to play it for you. The Eagles are the maybe most interesting team out there. The Giants are certainly interesting. Dallas is good. Minnesota's good.
The Eagles and the Niners. That's right now. That's what we see. We go, hey, boy, that's what we see right now. Let's just be real. Let's get all that other mess out the way. Here's what this thing has boiled down to, and I love it.
Cowboys, Eagles, Niners, as far as Michael is concerned, are the only real threatening teams in the NFC. Would you agree?
It's week 5. Nothing is won on October 11th. It's a long season. It's a 17-game season. There's 12 games left. I am laughing my rear end off at all of these people burying the Green Bay Packers. It's a riot to watch and to listen to. It's ridiculous. Do you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to stink and they're going to be 8-9? I mean, he is taking a while to get comfortable with a lot of new offensive players.
I guess the question should be, though, do you think that those wide receivers are going to turn it around that day? I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a stud, but I think he's going to watch drop passes all year long.
Well, we'll see. Maybe. But all I know is that I'm just telling you, I think Romeo Doubs is going to be in the top 3 for Rookie of the Year in the NFL for Offensive Rookie of the Year. This guy is going to be a force in the NFL. I can't tell you what week it's going to happen, anything like that, but Aaron Rodgers' favorite receiver usually catches a lot of balls and usually has some star power along with him. I mean, if Davante Adams had been drafted by the New York Giants, he wouldn't be Davante Adams today, okay? And so a lot of times, it depends where you go and all that. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying I don't care what it looks like on October 11th. Obviously, you'd rather be in the pennant race on October 11th than be 2-3, obviously. But all I'm saying is, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's ridiculous to sit here and say on this day, well, Tampa's really struggling. Their points per game are way down, so there's no way they're going to do it. It's Tom friggin' Brady. It's Mike Evans. They have a good offense, okay, and potentially a very good defense, with the exception of 1 week this year. So I don't know. Michael might be right. He could very well be right. The Cowboys' defense is fantastic. San Francisco's defense is fantastic. Now they're taking a few hits to it, but I think it's almost fruitless on October 11th to say, well, here's what we're going to see all year. We don't know.
Matt Rule got dumped, and now today there's lots of rumors about Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Brian Burns, Derek Brown, all terrific players in my opinion. Are you surprised that we don't see more trades in the NFL? And do you think that the Carolina Panthers, who I think only have like 3 or 4 draft picks on the board for next year's draft, do you think they will offload these players on the contending teams around this league? Or, Trades just typically don't happen in the NFL, Peter, but there's some. I mean, Derek Brown is an awesome defensive tackle, and I think Brian Burns is his equal as an end. So, I mean, and McCaffrey, we know what McCaffrey is. Is there going to be a market?
I don't know why you would trade a guy like Brian Burns. I think it's absurd. And I think most young players, when you talk about trading them, and I understand it's interesting and it's fodder for the rumor mill, and definitely, if I'm Scott Fitterer, the Panthers general manager, I'm listening to everybody. But, and this is going to probably sound idiotic, but I would mostly listen when the subject of Christian McCaffrey comes up. Because, look, McCaffrey was solid as a rock his first 3 years. He was one of the 3 or 4 biggest offensive weapons in football by the end of his third year. But in year 4, he missed 13 games due to injury. And in year 5, he missed 10 games due to injury. He's been banged up a little bit this year, but he's played every game. And he's been good, but not great. So I think the question becomes right now, if you can dump Christian McCaffrey's contract, and if somebody wants Christian McCaffrey and will give you, say, let's just say a 2 and a 4 next year, I'd take it, because you're not going anywhere this year. And the recent history of Christian McCaffrey is that he's going to probably get hurt. So I think that is number one. But all these other players, when you start trading these other guys for whatever you can get for them, I wouldn't trade either one of those defensive guys on the front seven for anything less than a 1. And I don't think, first-round picks who play pretty well in the NFL are sort of like beautiful cars you've just driven off the lot. It doesn't matter how good a shape the car is in. Once you drive a car off the lot, it's not worth what it was worth 10 minutes ago.
Depreciation is real. Let's just relate this to what our audience wants to hear. Should the 49ers make a play for Christian McCaffrey?
I mean, I wouldn't if I were them. I mean, the only way I would do it is if it didn't cost very much, and if they weren't worried very much about the cap implications. Because I think unless the Panthers are going to pick up some of his money, okay, and to me, he's got a lot of money left over in the last 3 years of his deal. He's got, I read it somewhere today, his salary is 12, 12, and 12 over the next 3 years. It's you have to ask yourself, if the Panthers are going to pick up a chunk of the money and you don't have to worry about any of things like the workout bonus or the prorated bonus, and you're willing to take on 12, 12, and 12 over the next 3 years, maybe you do it, but I wouldn't do it for big compensation. That's for sure.
Peter King here on 95.7 The Game. We have highlighted in this week at least 3 to 4 that roughing the passer call is hard to sell. What can honestly be done to correct the roughing the passer situation we're seeing come up so frequently? How about just making it reviewable?
The way the NFL works is that Walt Anderson, who, whatever his title is, basically is the supervisor of officials, and Walt Anderson will essentially tell his referees, who are mostly the guys who call roughing the passer, will tell them that nothing has changed in terms of the rules in the NFL. Roughing the passer is not a different penalty than it used to be. So, he's going to tell them, essentially, don't call it any different than you always have. Now, unstated in that will be, he's going to tell Carl Cheffers and Jerome Boger, call it the way you always have. And if Carl Cheffers and Jerome Boger can say that that's the way I always would have called it, honestly, I don't think they should be referees in the NFL. And so, to me, I kind of look at it. I view what happened in Week 5, I view something else as being a lot more serious, okay? And I'm going to give you a 49er angle to this, okay? Just imagine if on the first offensive snap of the 49ers game in Atlanta on Sunday, Jimmy Garoppolo gets driven to the turf, and it takes him 20 seconds to get up, and he gets up and he walks slowly back to the huddle, and they try to go on. Well, that is what happened to Teddy Bridgewater on Sunday for the Miami Dolphins against the Jets. And the spotter upstairs, the injury spotter upstairs, who has the power to say, take that guy out of the game, he can't play anymore, because I saw some ataxia or some, I saw some punch drunkenness in Teddy Bridgewater. Okay, he could call Jimmy Garoppolo. Any of those guys could call any player out of the game for the rest of the game. And that's what happened to Teddy Bridgewater the other day, even though he showed no signs on any of the replays of being wobbly, woozy, punch drunk. And when he walked into the locker room, they did every concussion test on him, and there was nothing wrong with him.
So is this PR for Tua?
Might be. But the only thing I'm saying is everybody, including me, hailed this new rule last Saturday as being a great decision. Anybody who's woozy, who can't stand, who is, has to be helped from the field, he's done, which is absolutely the case. But I can tell you, not a soul had to help Teddy Bridgewater off the field, had to help him in any way. There was no sign of any mental instability. Now, it could be maybe the camera was off him for 5 seconds, and the spotter upstairs saw something that nobody has seen. But the NFL has not said that. The spotter has not spoken. We don't know. The only point I'm making is this is a great rule, but it's also a rule that needs to be absolutely unequivocally transparent. And right now, after that game on Sunday, I'm going to ask you this question. If you're the Miami Dolphins and you get on the airplane having lost to the Jets on Sunday, a game you absolutely thought that you were going to win, and you probably would have won with decent quarterbacking. If you're the Miami Dolphins, you got on that plane and you landed in Florida on Sunday night having no idea why Teddy Bridgewater was taken out of that game and couldn't play anymore. So all I'm saying is that let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's just say that the Miami Dolphins lose a playoff spot at the end of the year by one game. Let's just say. What do you think they're going to be thinking on January 10th? We got screwed by some nameless, faceless guy sitting in the press box in the Meadowlands who declared our quarterback out of the game, and he shouldn't have been declared out of the game. So all I can say is this: be careful what you wish for, NFL.
Wild Monday night game. Raiders had a 17-0 lead, and they wound up losing. They had a 4th and 1, late, and they had two incredible route-running wide receivers run into each other.
Yeah.
While they had a tremendous back sitting in the backfield who's maybe having a career night. What do you make of the two teams we saw last night? The Raiders clearly are better than their record, and the Chiefs, depending on what week you catch them, sometimes they look like the best team in the league. Sometimes they don't look like they're the best team in the league.
Look, the Kansas City defensively, you can make some hay on them. That's why I think Buffalo has a really good chance to go in there and win on Sunday. I don't know, but I mean, Buffalo is better with Von Miller now because I think they have a chance to stop Patrick Mahomes better than they did last January. the Raiders, that was obviously a weird football game. And, I thought it was an okay call by Josh McDaniels with a running back who's running for 7 yards a carry, having a career game, thinking that they had a crease on that defensive front that they could take advantage of. And, they failed. That's the way life goes. Sometimes you make a call and it doesn't work. As far as the two guys running into each other, I mean, that can't happen. That just can't happen. It reminded me in Denver when last Thursday when the back judge basically collided with a receiver, one of two receivers, or one of three defensive backs, rather, for Indianapolis, allowing the longest Russell Wilson play of the day to happen. And look, you have some plays in every game that you want to have back. They obviously want to have that back. But, look, the Raiders, it's bizarre to me they're 1-4. Bizarre. They're so much better than that, I think. And last night, I think you really started to see a little bit more of the Chandler Jones-Max Crosby duo that you thought you were going to see from opening day but hadn't. I don't think the Raiders are dead. I mean, it's a long year, and it's really hard to come back from 1-4. But I think the Raiders are powerful enough to go on a run.
You don't think the league is going to get involved in any Devontae Adams cameraman shove, do you?
Oh, they might. They might suspend him for a week. That wouldn't shock me. But I'm just talking long haul, even if he misses one game. I mean, I just think the Raiders have a lot of weapons, and Josh Jacobs is emerging now as a top 5 back. And the one thing that you wouldn't really think of Josh McDaniels from his time in New England because he had Brady, and he wanted to throw the ball, that was they always wanted to emphasize the run and be a great running team. Maybe not first over Brady, but it was very, very close because they thought by bleeding the clock, running the ball, that's the best way to win, and they almost did it in Kansas City last night.
Peter, if we didn't ask you, you'd be the only person all week we didn't ask about it. What'd you think of the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole video?
3 thoughts. I know nothing about the NBA. I really do, but number one, if I were an employee of the Golden State Warriors, let me start by saying, number one, if I ran the Golden State Warriors, whoever released that would never work for me again. This is not a private enterprise that this is not a public enterprise that, in essence, everybody has the right to know and deserves to know. That bothered me a lot. It didn't bother me as much as the punch. But I think as far as the punch goes, I understand there's a lot of great emotion involved in things like the ring ceremony and all that stuff. This team's got to draw a line in the sand and suspend Draymond Green for some number of games. If he doesn't get to be there for the ring ceremony, tough marbles. Really. He needs to be sent away for a while, whether to go to anger management or whatever. And then number 3, if he doesn't accept it, if he's not good with it, I think you trade him. And I'm sure that a team that is so desperate to win, let's say the Knicks, let's say the Nets, I don't know who, but there's got to be a team out there that would pay something significant for Draymond Green. But I don't know how you suspend a guy for 3 exhibition games and have him come back and everybody sings Kumbaya. That was one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. And he did it to a teammate. Just, I don't know. It's outrageous.
I love that you used the phrase tough marbles on today's show. I love that you are now an NBA insider, our American League East insider, and we also dabble in football with Peter King, a man for all seasons. Thank you so very, very much, Peter. Have a great night.
All right, guys, take care.
Thanks, Peter.
There's our guy right there, Peter King. He opens on the Yankees. Hey, he's telling you right now he doesn't know anything about Giants general manager Pete Petula, but Aaron Judge could be coming.